Check 1 2, check 1 2. Check, test, test. Test. Test 3. Test 10. Test 9. Test 8. Test 7. Test 6. Test 5. Test 4. Test 3. Test 2. Test 1.
On. All right, good evening. Let's call the meeting to order with a salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty for all. Good evening, all. Welcome to our April regular meeting. We'd like to start first with a moment of silence for Cindy Davis, who served as special ed director for several years here at Athens. Thank you. We'll move on now to the approval of the minutes. Do we have a motion in a second?
I make a motion. Second.
Okay, so this will be via unanimous consent. Do we have any questions or comments on the minutes for Tuesday, March 12th? Both the special voting meeting as well as the work session, and then Tuesday, March 19th, the regular session. Okay, those will be then approved via unanimous consent. Next, we'll move on to our special presentation of the Athens Area High School FFA. Mr. Stage, anything you'd like to say to introduce the presentation?
No, I think we have Mr. Bixler here to help us, and I don't see, I think Mr. Bixler, yeah. So if you want to come right up here to the microphone, and we got a whole crowd tonight, a lot of FFA. Love them. There's a presentation behind us too. I'm pretty sure it's gonna. Yeah.
There we go. Awesome. Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Mr. Brandon Bixler, and I've been here at Athens Area High School as a student teacher over the past semester. So I've had the privilege of working with the incredible team of students you see behind me here. And tonight, they're going to be leading a presentation on some updates of the Athens Area High School's FFA chapter over the past year. So it's been an honor to be here at Athens Area High School. I've enjoyed my time here, but I'm super excited to hand the mic over to our officer team this evening, and you'll get to hear from them. So with that, I will let them introduce themselves.
Hello, I'm Amber Galvin, and I am currently serving as the president.
Hello, my name is Aiden Millen, and I'm your vice president.
Good evening, I'm Rachel Jelf, and I'm currently serving as a student advisor.
Good evening, I'm Timothy Derrig, and I'm serving as your sentinel.
My name is Rudy McDaniel, and I'm serving as your 2024 Athens secretary.
It is.
Oh, there we go.
Okay, I would like to recognize the Athens County FFA officers we have here at the school. Firstly, I am a county FFA officer myself. I am the sentinel on the county team as well. I would also like to recognize Madeline Hiley. She is our treasurer. No, hang on, I have the list here. I'm sorry. Reporter. She's the reporter on our team. Penelope Grubb, she is our treasurer. And I'd also like to take this time to recognize the rest of our team here. Lucas Drever is the advisor. Jacob Gilpin is our president. Donald Bolt is our vice president. Hart House Connect is our chaplain. And Kristen Davis is our secretary. What the county team does is we have a hand in setting up a lot of the county related FFA events that most of the schools in Bradford County attend. It's things like the CDE events, the aquatics and the forestry and the soils competition. And I believe the safe tractor driving competition, right? Yeah, we have a hand in setting up a lot of that. And we work alongside a lot of the advisors from the schools in Bradford County to set those events up. Thank you.
One of our recent events was the Midwinter Convention that took place at the Pennsylvania Farm Show. At this convention, we recognize our new jacket winners, which we recognize at the Ice Cream Social, but we also recognize our Keystone recipients, which included of Carter Clark, Simon Beeman, Hannah Shutter, and Rachel Jolliff.
Okay, so at the Midwinter Convention, we also got to recognize parents who have 4 or more children. And my parents were lucky enough to have 4 more children, FFA, who received their Keystone degree. And in order to get distinguished parents, your kids have to have the Keystone degree, I believe. Yeah, and there's a picture of me and my parents.
So unfortunately, our Brooke Geiger officer couldn't, okay, our officer named Brooke Geiger is our reporter this year, and she could unfortunately not attend the meeting tonight, but she applied for a $600 scholarship and received it to go to the Washington Leadership Conference at the Midwinter Convention. So this basically is a leadership conference that works with the national FFA officers. The conference costs around $1,200. So with the partial scholarship, she was able to then go out to businesses and campaign, not necessarily campaign, but talk to the businesses and get the other costs covered.
All right, guys, let me talk to you a little bit about the American degree. The American degree is the highest degree in agriculture in FFA. Only 1% of FFA recipients get the American degree. To this, you got to have lots of community service hours, be engaged in agriculture events, have a good SAE, which means supervised agriculture experience, and overall be a great person. We are lucky enough to have 2 people that got the American degree this year, Charity Rample and Reagan Brand. Congratulations to them. My goal is to get the American degree, as I'm sure all the officers are, and it's a great achievement. Thank you.
I'd like to take a little bit of time here to talk about the ACES conference. Students in the FFA across the state of Pennsylvania, this is a statewide event, step out of their comfort zone for a weekend, and they stay down in Harrisburg at one of the nicer hotels. They get down there and we register our rooms and we get our cards and we take all our stuff up to rooms. But the real fun begins with the workshops. There are several leadership workshops set up by the Pennsylvania FFA Foundation and its state officers. You learn a lot about advocacy as an agriculture advocate, communication skills and professionalism in the workplace. And after all the workshops are over, there is a wonderful dinner with great food and great catering. And then they have an activity or I don't have yet. Well, I'll get to that too. I don't have the words for it right now, but they have an activity during the dinner. It's like a show or whatever. They like to embarrass the advisors up there. It's pretty funny. Yeah, and like they were saying behind me, there is also a dance that goes till about, I think it's like 10 o'clock or something like that. Students can go up there in the dance floor and have all sorts of fun. And you get students saying, "Oh, I don't want to dance." And as Mr. Steinfeld was saying earlier, he'll see them come back. They'll be all sweaty and they had a good time. And it's like, those are the same kids that said, "I don't want to dance and I don't want to go to the event," but they enjoyed it. They step out of their comfort zone and they learn something new and they have fun. It is an overnight event. I believe it's one night, correct? The next day, they have a breakfast and they have the closing ceremonies and we pack up and we head home. But on the way, we stop at Bass Pro Shop. That's probably the most fun out of the entire event, if I'm honest with you. Yeah, got to be careful with your pocketbook though, because you can lose some $100 bills pretty easy down there. All right, I'll pass the microphone off to one of our other officers now. Thank you.
Okay, so one of our newer CDEs this year was the Pennsylvania Maple CDE, and this was our first year hosting it. We sent off a team down during the Midwinter Convention or the Farm Show. This is one of our teams. This is Noah Robson, Owen Wilkinson, Abram Steinfeld, and myself. And we had a lot of practices. We worked really hard. Thank you to Mr. Steinfeld and Mrs. Aldifer and Mr. Bixler for making time to help us and work with us. Even though this was a new CDE, it was a lot of practicing and memorization. And we also got to go out to my family's maple farm and got to learn more about tool identification and fun facts. So thank you for all the time that you helped with. It was awesome. So when we went down to states, we started off by going to tool identification. We did a written test. We made maple caramel bites. And this was a product that we had to make ourselves. We had to come up with the ingredients. We had to come up with a mixture. So we went to my grandparents' house and we ended up finding maple caramel bites. We presented that to the judges and we ended up getting first. It was a lot of work and it was difficult for being the first year. But after we got the hang of it, we started to understand more about tree facts and tool identification and all of that fun stuff. So this is some of the pictures throughout the week and throughout the competition. We also got to go to the Pennsylvania State Maple Tapping event, and that was over in one of our neighboring counties. I don't remember the farm. Sorry. Dewings Farm. So we went over to a neighboring county. Secretary Russell Redding was there, Secretary of Agriculture, and I had the chance to go talk to him and present our maple caramel bites to him. We also got to have some delicious pancakes and watch him tap a tree, and that was taken onto television, I think. So that was a great opportunity to represent one of our new products that we came up with, and hopefully we can start selling these products, but we have a game plan for it. We have prices and everything, and we have everything figured out. So hopefully we can make something out of it.
So I'm going to talk about the Bradford County Leadership Public Speaking Competition. So as you guys, if you came to the ice cream social, you definitely heard the creed. So we did have a first place, Sophia Marika, and third place was Kylie Wolfslander. Junior Prepared is a speech that they have to memorize or write a speech that consists of 3 to 5 minutes, and Brooke Geiger placed third. Senior Prepared is a 6 to 8 minute speech, and as you can see, we have a Rachel Jelleth, and she placed third. Interview, Rachel placed. The interview process is called employment skills, and it's just going to interview for a selected job. You have to create a resume, and yes, it's very fun. And then the dairy foods, there was a lot of ties in this whole contest, but we ended up having a first, third, and another third. Thank you.
Another event that we attended was Ag Literacy Week, where we were able to go to the elementary schools, Lynch and SRU, and we were able to read them an agricultural story that was issued by the state. And we also got to do activity with them, which included growing lettuce. So we were really lucky to be able to talk to the students and be able to introduce them to some agricultural concepts they might not know about.
All right, I'm gonna explain to you guys what the career development events is. So basically, the career development event is there's 3 or 4 events across the year. Aquatics, forestry, soils, wildlife is one, livestock, and horse judging. Now, these events help plan for if you're going to further yourself into the agriculture industry. It's a really fun event. I mean, we have Envirothon coming up the 26th, which is a good competition between all of our county, all the schools across the county, and it's really fun. This is our second year going to the Envirothon, and we did pretty well our first year, and yeah.
So finally, we just wanted to say thank you for all of your guys' support in our Athens FFA program, because without you, truly, we would not be able to have such a successful program. And we also want to say thank you to our advisors, Mrs. Aldifer, Mr. Steinfeld, and Mr. Bixler. And hoping we get a 3-teacher program if that's something you guys can help with. But also, we just wanted to say thank you and that we appreciate all of your support in our program.
Real quick, I just wanted to tell you how excellent it is to hear from our FFA executive team. They did a wonderful job. There's so many wonderful things going on. And a special thank you to Mrs. Aldifer, Mr. Steinfeld, and Mr. Bixler. It takes a lot of work, a lot of time to make these kids, give them the opportunities to be successful. And a special thank you to Mr. Bixler. This is his last week with us, and he's moving on to not greener pastures. Thank you. Yeah, awesome. And I really appreciated our time together. And we'll see you in the fall, right? That's the plan. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Mr. Stage, and thank you again to the FFA team. I will say that I'm looking forward to the maple caramel bites to hit a store shelf somewhere near us, and I'll be the first ones to buy them. So I'm going to look forward to them coming out. Yes, because I've had the maple caramel from Jealous before, and it's really, really good. So I can imagine these will be very similar. All right, thank you. So let's move on. Next item, superintendent's items or reports. We will start with Mr. Stage.
Thank you very much. We got a couple other presentations tonight, so I'm going to keep mine relatively brief. Just to give you a brief update on all the things going on in our district. We'll start with the elementary. Both elementary schools are doing an attendance challenge. Winning group at Lynch Buston gets to pie Mrs. Rhodes in the face. And if SRU hits the 96% attendance rate, Mr. Collum is going to do a Barbie makeover. I cannot imagine what that's going to be. The Lynch Buston raised $850 to support Kids Can't Fight Cancer, which I thought was wonderful. This week is Rock, the PSSA's Spirit Week out at SRU, and the book fair has been underway and is always underway. It seems like it's such a great event. And finally, both of our elementary schools got to compete in the Connects STEAM Challenge that was held at Lycoming College. And we had 4 teams compete. We had 2 from Lynch, 1 from SRU, and we had a team from Rowe. One of the teams from Lynch, Buston, took first place, and they'll be moving on to the state competition later this month. At Rowe, I wanted to point out, like, Mrs. Davis and the culinary arts kids were making cookies for dogs and biscuits for dogs, and they're raising money to support programs for the animal shelters. And I think that's pretty awesome too. I wanted to keep it brief tonight. At the high school, there's only one thing we can talk about at the high school, and that was this week's production of Beauty and the Beast. And I know Mr. Clark invited some of the ASAG members, but it was short notice. It's a beautiful day outside. I'm not sure who showed up to support. Yeah. So one thing we have to know about our student actors is that they're so involved in everything. If you did not get a chance to see it, it was wonderfully done. The stage behind the screen, unbelievable, 2 stories, incredible. We owe a huge shout out to Carly Vaughn, our director. Did a phenomenal job. We had lots of help from Mr. Wackman, Mrs. Reynolds. I saw a lot of people that put a lot of time and effort in to help the kids be so successful. It was a great event, and I'm very proud of them all. So. That's right. I forgot to mention that. Thank you, Mr. Clark. And that concludes my brief report for this month.
Great. Thank you so much. So next we have Blast IU-17. I don't believe anybody reporting on that this evening. So we'll move on to the Career Center. Mrs. Cooper.
I have nothing new to report out. Our monthly meeting is this Thursday. So I'll have something for the May 7th meeting.
Great. Thank you very much. PSBA, Mrs. Minnick.
I don't have anything to report.
Okay. So we will move on to solicitors reports. Mr. Barrett.
I just have a couple things. We have a couple personnel matters that are moving forward. Secondly, we think we have a settlement that we will propose. It's being drafted right now in the last tax appeal we have pending for the current year. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Barrett. So next we'll move on to visitor comments. This is visitor comments for board action items only. If anybody has any comments, please approach the microphone. Okay, we'll move on now to section 7, financial business. Do we have a motion and a second to bring financial business up for vote?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, thank you. So we have our normal financial business, lines A through G, and then we also have H, which is our nutrition group food service budget for the next school year. Any questions or conversations on lines A through H within the financial business? Okay, Christine, let's go for a vote.
Okay, Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper,
Yes.
Mr. Frisbee,
Yes.
Mr. Jones,
Yes.
Mrs. Minnick,
Yes.
Mr. Owen,
Yes.
Mr. Rude,
Yes.
and Mrs. Smart.
Yes.
Okay, so next is personnel. Do we have a motion and a second to bring personnel up for vote?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, so we have 3 items under personnel tonight. We have our normal personnel list of resignations. So we have some professional resignations, some position eliminations, as well as some creation of new positions. Some additional resignations in the supplemental area, athletic coach resignation, and some athletic volunteers, as well as a few others. So that's section A. We also have a couple of requests for some summer interns, one in the building and grounds area and the second in the IT department. Any questions on those 3 items or anything to add, Mr. Stage?
No, I have nothing to add other than the summer interns are needed.
Any questions or conversations from the board? Okay, Christine, vote, please.
Mrs. Cooper,
Yes.
Mr. Frisbee.
Yes.
Mr. Jones,
Yes.
Mrs. Minnick,
Yes.
Mr. Owen,
Yes.
Mr. Rude,
Yes.
Mrs. Smart,
Yes.
and Mr. Sherrusnovsky.
Yes. Okay, next we will move to contracts and agreements. Do we have a motion and a second?
So moved. Second.
Okay, so for contracts and agreements, I believe we have a
Yeah.
presentation here, Mr.
The board members, I'd like to welcome Eugene Shuley. I always get it wrong. He's here to talk to you about the Quest Tech Educational Technology management proposal that's in front of you guys tonight for a vote.
If we could get the presentation up. Oh, there we go. Thank you. Everyone, please give me some grace. I'm losing my sight in my left eye, so I'm going to try to view this as good as possible. Thank you very much, Cliff. You read my mind. So we are Quest Tech. I'll give you a little bit of a background here for us. Clint, are we able to get this on one page by chance, my friend? So Quest Tech came in, we did an assessment of all of the technology throughout the district. The report that was given to the board was specifically for Athens. So what Quest Tech has done is we put together a report and a presentation to the board. And what we do is we look to bring in the right people at every district that we're at, that we partner with. We make sure that they have the expert technology understanding. We have a recruiting department to go out and bring in those individuals. We then bring a team that will be on site that is designed specific for Athens. If we could go up a little bit more there. There you go. Thank you. And what we're looking at is to make sure that we're getting things done correctly, from project management to endpoint management. That means getting in the classroom, making sure the equipment that you're investing in is working, that when the teachers get into the classroom to teach, they are prepared and ready to go, and then the students can maximize their time. Couple real important things right now is the cybersecurity. That's a huge part of what we bring here. We have procedures in place to help protect and limit the exposure on cybersecurity. We also do instructor support, infrastructure support. These are all parts of being successful. And again, allowing the teachers to teach and the students to learn. And then on the bottom, we also help to grow with strategic planning, technology evaluation that's ongoing, and E-rate planning and coordination. There are funds available through the federal government that we want to make sure that Athens takes advantage of and gets what we like to call free money to put into technology needs from the infrastructure perspective. So we don't want you to use your fund balance. We don't want to use your general balance or your general fund. We want to make sure that we are leveraging E-rate that is given by the government. The next slide that's coming up is just a little bit about Quest Tech. We're in 44 districts across the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. We're in 2 districts here locally and the CTC as well. On top of school districts, we're up to 8 CTCs, and we actually manage 1 IU as well. Just some of the numbers, again, districts. The ones that I get excited about is we support over 100,000 devices every single day throughout all of our partner districts. And we have educators it's probably closer to 10,000 now. And our average customer satisfaction rating is at 4.5 stars throughout all of our partnerships. So what we do is, if we could get it all on one screen, I don't know if it's possible, we really like to use a balanced scorecard where we start on the financial perspective and it always ends up to the learning and growth. That's okay. Thank you, Cliff. I appreciate it. So when it comes up, you'll see when we look at any of our partners, we always start the financial part. Where are we at financially? What are the investments? How are they being invested? Are they being used appropriately? And then what we want to end up is we want to grow together to where we really get into that learning and growth. And I know Dr. Stage and his team has a lot of future visions that they want to move forward with the technology. Dr. Stage, am I able to take this and come up to the stage so I could see the screen and talk about it a little bit better? Thank you so much. Again, forgive me, folks. Thank you. Lynn, thank you. I appreciate it. So this is what I was talking about earlier. So again, when we do an assessment, we start off with this vision, which is a balanced scorecard. We end up putting together an assessment based on all of our information that we gather. Again, we start at the financial perspective, the internal perspective, meaning what does the district feel are their strengths and weaknesses as it relates to the internal. The customer perspective, that's the students, that's the teachers. We want to make sure that we are meeting and exceeding their needs every single day. And then eventually we want to help you continue your learning and growth as a district. So when we came up with a design, these were the 9 key parts here. Consider changes in the team leadership structure. It'll help both leadership and management capability at the top. Have a defined role for everybody within the department. Number 3, restructure the department to fully align with functional support, really emphasizing the classroom support. Add specific capacity to cover and deploy and train instructional applications across the entire classroom. Consolidate network systems and management duties under a defined position on the team. That would be an infrastructure engineer. Excuse me. Establish critical team performance measurements, benchmarks, and goals. That allows us to really measure and have benchmarks on how we are performing, how we are providing support in the classroom for the teachers and the students. And then we relay that data here to the board, Dr. Stage and his team on the administrative team. Prioritize effective team communication internally and throughout the departments. Consolidate and strengthen ancillary support resources and introduce processes to promote efficiency and standardize best practices. So that was the design. You would have an on-site team of a director of technology, an infrastructure engineer, 2 tech specialists, and an instructional person who would get in and help teach the teacher on the applications that you're investing in. Or if a teacher finds an application they like and they want to make it uniform throughout the district, that person would get in and work with the teachers as well to make sure that we are maximizing that application. This was the cost for 3 years. It is fixed. There are no hidden costs. Dr. Stage doesn't have to worry about getting a separate bill for anything. For that cost, like I said, you'll have a director, an engineer, the instructional app analyst, 2 tech specialists. Included with your on-site team is the following: a help desk. Our help desk services allow us to remedy any problems instantaneously. That helps build capacity. We also have infrastructure support. Although you have an infrastructure engineer here handling the day-to-day, there are some situations where you need a higher level infrastructure engineer who will help support. Network monitoring. We will network your monitors here, your infrastructure, your how do I want to put it? What's coming in and what's coming out 24/7, 365. We will know if there's a virus or a problem even before our on-site team, because we are monitoring that every single day throughout the year. Emergency support, on-site backup, and we also like to have summer interns. We will look to hire actual young men and women, students here at the district that are possibly looking to get into IT, and then they could come work with our people. They actually get paid. We're not looking for a summer freebie. We want to help those young men and women grow and develop their interest in technology. The impact of change, and this is what gets me more excited. So on the operations side, you will see immediate improvements to responsiveness and the quality of customer service. When that teacher needs us, when that student needs us, you will have rapid response. Streamline IT functions that will mean improvements in consistency of the service. You'll see a dramatic improvement in the use of data to help increase operations transparency and support resource planning. Increased capability to plan and support any strategic improvements. And I said this earlier, maximize and leverage the government funding of E-rate. We want to make sure that you get every dollar that is given to Athens. Expansion in procurement in hardware and software through consortium pricing. That's another one. Because of our 45 districts, we take advantage of what equipment is out there, and we do a consortium pricing to get you the best pricing. Don't always have to go with Questec. If you find something less expensive, your director will make sure that the board and Dr. Stage and his team knows that that's the case. But we also have that at your disposal. And then responsible inventory and software management. Know what you have, what's at end of life, what may need to be replaced. That allows better functionality as it relates to budgeting. Application support, renewed focus and capability to innovate in the classroom. Growth of the 21st century learning environment. This goes to that learning and growth. Support structure for all standards of learning. Dramatic increase in availability of in-classroom technology support for teachers. Improved capacity for integrating instructional technology expertise with the planning process. And then absolutely improved continuity and predictability between the selection, deployment, and the support of all new classroom technologies. So we want to make sure, I've said it ad nauseum, we want to make sure that the teachers have the tools to teach and the students have the tools that they're ready to work every single day and every minute they have in the classroom to continue their learning process. That's it for my presentation. I just wanted to come and just explain to the public and once again to the board what they will see immediately. If the board elects to move forward with us, we will be in contact with Dr. Stage as we go through the transition from one to another. We just don't set it and forget it. We will have meeting after meeting after meeting until we get to where we need to be together as partners. So thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you. So that presentation addresses item C under section 9. Within section 9, we're also reviewing and voting on the Guthrie Medical Services Agreement, as well as a physical therapy services agreement. So it's 9A, B, and C. Any further questions, comments from the board on anything in section 9?
I just want to make sure the public knows that this isn't the first time we've met with Quest Tech, like we've been working on, and we've seen the proposal. So don't think that just this 15-minute proposal, we're going to make a decision. It's been explained to us, the numbers have been explained to us, the cost has been looked at. So it's not just something we're voting on tonight. We've been presented this information previously.
I can assure you, our assessment has been going on for many, many, many months, maybe close to a year. Dr. Stage began working with us, and then we did our assessment, and we've met with the board a couple times. So this has been ongoing, and we appreciate the opportunity to present to the board and to the public. Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments from the board on section 9? Okay, let's go for a vote. Christine?
Mr. Frisbee,
Yes.
Mr. Jones,
Yes.
Mrs. Minnick,
Yes.
Mr. Owen,
Yes.
Mr. Rude,
Yes.
Mrs. Smart,
Yes.
Mr. Charles-Nowski.
Yes.
And Mrs. Cooper.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on to section 10 for policies. Do we have a motion and a second to bring policies to the table?
So moved.
Okay, so we have several policies to review this evening, but they're all in first read. So they'll come back next month for second read. We have this physical examination, HIV infection, non-tenured employees, conduct disciplinary procedures, weapons, penalties for tardiness, and outside activities. Those are the policies up for discussion and vote tonight. Any questions or discussion on those policies? Okay, so we'll go for a vote, and reminder, this is the vote on our first read. Second read will be next month. So Christine?
Mr. Jones,
Yes.
Mrs. Minnick,
Yes.
Mr. Owen,
Yes.
Mr. Rude,
Yes.
Mrs. Smart,
Yes.
Mr. Charles-Nowski.
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper
Yes.
and Mr. Frisbee.
Yes.
Okay, so next we'll move on to curriculum and instruction, and this is another presentation tonight from Mr. Toscano on our PSSA and Keystone scores.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Just want to remind everybody that you should have a tab on your computer with the presentation, or you can follow along behind you. I know they left, but I wanted to just comment real quick on the FFA. Dr. Stage, Jenny, myself had the opportunity to judge their competition a couple weeks ago at Canton, and it's just amazing to see not only our kids, but all the kids in the county, and just how impressive these young students are coming in. Jenny and I judge the interviews, and Dr. Stage does the senior prepared speeches. And our kids, I will, I hate to say that our kids do the best, they do, but really all the kids that come through there are truly amazing. So hats off to the advisors and everybody involved in that program. Okay, so we're gonna go through real quick. We have some longitudinal data to share first. Just to kind of give you guys an idea if this will change slides. Clint, do I need to do anything else? I did turn it on. Huh? Oh. There we go. Thank you, Mr. Clark. So first thing we're going to talk about is kind of district-wide. Here are our scores over the last several years. The thing I want to kind of point out to you is just the trends across. This is district-wide, and I'll break it down 3rd through 8th grade here in a second, and then we'll get to Keystones after we go through the PSSAs. If you notice, we're usually pretty steady. COVID hit in obviously the spring of 2020, and we've seen a decline in scores since then, as has the rest of the state. It's in my last say. It's not an excuse, but it is a reality of what we're dealing with as we continue to try to claw our way back to where we were and improve moving forward. So that first slide is the entire district, and then it's broken down. First, we'll go through reading, and then we'll go through. We see basically the same trends across all of our grade levels, depending on the cohort. Every once in a while, you have a smaller cohort or a stronger cohort when you have as few students as we have in our district. A few kids either way, proficient or advanced, or basic or below basic, can really swing our scores. But again, I just kind of want you to notice the trend of kind of where we're at. We did take a dip in most of our areas this year. In talking with Scott Hagee, who is the person who oversees our Ed Insight, which is our data warehouse, and he works with many districts in Pennsylvania. He shared with me that almost all schools that move to online testing see a dip in their first year. So we're going to attribute some of that to that. I'm not really sure why that is, but when he works with, I don't know how many schools in Pennsylvania, but it's a lot. And he did share that when schools transition over, they do see a dip. One thing I'll mention too, obviously last year was our first year doing online testing. This year, statewide, 39% of schools now are up for PSSAs are online, and 29% of schools statewide are doing Keystones online. So that's a pretty large jump from previous years. So we continue to see that trend. I still think we're on the kind of the front end of that, and Craig and I have talked about this for a few years now, that we're going to be required to be online here sooner rather than later, I think. So we are a little bit ahead of the curve there. Middle school basically see the same things that we're seeing in the elementary with our reading scores. And again, I'll get to this kind of at the end, but as you know, you approved a new reading resource for the district 2 months ago, I think now. So we're excited to get that started. The materials are actually in. They came in last week. We've got our professional development set up for that for the end of this school year and the beginning of next school year. So, you know, when we look at our overall reading scores, we noticed there was an issue. Working with the teachers, the administrators, we've addressed that, and looking forward to seeing what CKLA will do as our, it's a much more comprehensive resource, as I've shared with you guys before. So that really should help when we look at improving not only the reading scores at the lower level, but as in the years to come up here at the high school as well. Moving on to math, you're going to see basically the same trend you saw with our reading scores from year to year. That first slide is district-wide, and then by grade level. And again, depending on the cohort, you might see a larger dip one way or the other as we go through that. Science, we're pretty strong in science typically, and this last year was no different. both fourth grade and eighth grade. This is our district-wide scores. Oops. I did break it down to fourth and eighth grade. I think I shared this with you guys previously, but just to remind you, the PSSA for science at the elementary level is moving to fifth grade. So we've made shifts for that already. SRU shifted their kind of science specific teacher to fifth grade this year. And Lynch has been putting things in place as well. They have a little bit different setup because of the 4 teachers in fourth and fifth grade versus 3 at SRU. We're also working with the IU on the new standards. They're actually coming in next week and the following week to work with our elementary and middle schools. We're still working on trying to find a date for the high school as we look to implement the new science standards. Again, that's just another kind of breakdown of our overall scores. For this past year, the 22-23 school year. And there you can see the overall score is broken down by building. For yes, ma'am. This one? Sure. And then math. You're welcome. And just to mention with math too, again, we expected to see a little bit of a dip being the first year that we've implemented a new resource. That is very typical. When you put something new in, we actually didn't see as big of a dip as I anticipated. So I'm encouraged by that. And the other thing I'm encouraged by is in our mid-year assessments, we've seen some growth that we have not seen previously. So PSSAs start next week, and we're looking forward to seeing what our students are going to show us and the improvement that hopefully is going to come with this new resource that we feel is a lot more rigorous than the resource that we used for the previous 5 or 6 years. And again, if you all remember, we wanted to move to we were actually looking to move to a new resource several years ago, but when COVID hit, we pumped the brakes on that for math. And then it took us a little bit longer to get something in place that we feel is going to be better for our students. Keystones, similar trends to the elementary. Honestly, this is Harlan Row. The only keystone they take is math or Algebra 1. And their scores are excellent, but that's the advanced group of 8th graders that take that keystone. So you'll see that that their scores are very strong. In fact, when you look, they have no below basic students, and there's several years on there where they don't even have, there's no data points because they didn't have any students that scored basic. Conversely, when you take that group out for our high school students, the data doesn't look quite as good. And if you'll notice, they actually, that last data point for the Keystone exams for the Algebra 1, the Bio, and the Lit, it looks kind of alarming when you look at the 23-24, but that is from the winter Keystone scores. So those scores are anybody who did not pass the Keystone in the spring. So those are all retakes. So we would expect those numbers to not be as good as our spring numbers because it's only the students who did not score proficient on the spring Keystone. So really, if you're trying to compare year to year, you should look at the 22-23 numbers, and they're more in line with what we've seen historically. If you take our 9th grade Algebra 1 scores and combine them with our 8th grade Algebra 1 scores, we're actually 1 percentage point higher than the state average overall for our Algebra 1 scores, just to put it in context of the two groups together. I know it looks kind of grim for the high school, but it's only because we're pulling our top students out of there. Bio, same thing. Again, don't look at that last point, but when you're comparing from year to year, please look at that 22-23, and we're more or less in the same general area that we have been, and same with literature.
We just as a note, I would note that on your PowerPoints going forward, if like we want to note that this is like other exams or a midpoint year or something.
You mean
like
like for the
yeah, I'd actually put it
Keystone
on
here?
I'd actually make sure it's on the slides.
Yeah,
that we
yeah, I can do that. Or actually, I could have actually run the data without that on there too, but I wanted to look at it and compare it. So,
Absolutely, yeah. I think it's just like they have the context of
correct.
what the data
Yeah,
is that they're
That's
looking
not a
at.
bad suggestion. Thank you. And then again, just a breakdown of this past year, 22-23 school year for all three Keystones. And then again, when you look at that on face value, it's shocking, but overall, we're actually a little bit ahead of the state average there. The other thing I wanted to share with you tonight is our AP exam scores. This is actually a pretty good bright spot for the district. Most of those scores are really, really good. The couple that are a little bit lower, like when you look at physics, when you only have 4 students, again, sometimes that number can get skewed a little bit. But overall, our students that are in the AP courses and moving on to post-secondary, as typically those students are, they're scoring very, very well. They're getting college credits for these courses. I know that saved my son, who should be graduating next week, I hope. But because his first year at college was that COVID year too, so his credits his first year were not great, but because he had so many credits from here at Athens, that really helped hopefully get him to graduate. I keep using air quotes because I'm not convinced he's actually going to be graduating next week until I actually see him walk across the stage. But anyway, point being, our students have a great opportunity to earn a ton of credits between AP and dual enrollment that really, actually, Mary Ellen and I were at a job fair yesterday and in talking with the prospective teachers that were there. The amount of dual enrollment and AP courses that we offer is so much larger than even districts a lot bigger than us. So that continues to be a bright spot for our district. So the number across the top is the score. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that's how the
And then,
scores are
so
broken down.
like
So
for
that,
US government, there were 14 students that took.
correct. And you have 4 1s, 5 2s, and 5 3s. Does that make sense? Yeah.
So, I don't know, like, how many of our, that's-
You had to ask me that question. I don't know. I don't know, Bill. do
just
you have
11th
an
and 12th grade or 9th through 12th?
So typically, yes, but there are some courses you can get in younger if there's space. But it's typically 11th and 12th graders.
I'm wondering, like,
Mm.
taking AP courses.
I don't know the answer, but I can check with the high school guidance department and get that information to you guys, because that's a good question.
John, is it optional to take the test?
They don't
So-
have to take the test.
So
right?
like where there's
kids that are in
4
there that could have
physics,
taken the course.
There's more than 4 physics students, right?
So that would be, yes, kids who, and that's AP
Right.
physics, right? We have a regular
Right.
physics course. too.
Sure.
But yes, those are the kids that opt to take the exam. Thank you. That's a
But
good
there's
point.
more,
I would think. Well, so AP physics, maybe not. I don't know that off the top of my head, because some of those courses are smaller. But my guess is there's a few more kids in there, Chris, but it's probably not that many more.
okay.
But I could get those. I can get AP numbers to you guys.
Right.
Yep.
Like, I'll
Sure.
let you finish your
Yeah,
presentation.
yeah. But I can get that information to you guys
Yeah.
between now and the next meeting. And I think I hit most of these kind of as we talked about. Yeah, our scores continue to not be exactly where we want them to be, but we're putting the things in place that we, ELA, math resources are both either brand new or within a year at this point. And we expect that to really have an impact within the next, I'd say, year or two. Probably 2 for the ELA. But I would expect our math scores to improve this year, now that we're in year 2 of that process. I think that's it. Questions?
Just a quick comment for everybody. Truth of the matter is, we've been identifying where we've struggled. I think we're caught ourselves in a bit of a transitional period. We were trying to transition earlier. No excuses. I do think that the trend will be turning much more positive in the near future. A lot of really great stuff has been happening this year. Really a lot of addressing the concerns. And as we continue to move forward, there are a lot of things that we got to do. The score is one. one data set of what we consider a whole student. I would not be discouraged. I am discouraged that our numbers have declined, but I'll be honest with you guys, I'm very encouraged by some of the things that we're doing to create really incredible citizens. I know that's kind of I don't want to put a Band-Aid on the broken leg, but we're after it. And I think every person in this district is working to do exactly what we need to do, and it's improved. So, yep, we're going to take our lumps from time to time, and we're going to keep moving forward.
All right, thank you. Any additional questions from the board on that presentation? Okay, so moving on, we have nothing for buildings and grounds this evening. I'm sorry, skipped one. We'll go back. Transportation, 12, transportation. Do we have a motion and a second to bring transportation to the table?
So move.
Second. Okay, thank you, Drew. So we have looks like 3 bus upgrades from Chambers on the agenda tonight. Any questions from the board on those 3 upgrades? Hey, Christine, vote.
Mrs. Minnick,
Yes.
Mr. Owen,
Yes.
Mr. Rude,
Yes.
Mrs. Smart,
Yes.
Mr. Tarosnowski.
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper,
Yes.
Mr. Frisbee.
Yes.
And Mr. Jones.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So now moving on. So now we have nothing for buildings and grounds, nothing in other. We'll move on now to visitor comments. Do we have any additional visitor comments this evening? If so, please approach the microphone. And we will ask that you please give your name, the township or borough you represent, the organization which you represent, and the subject matter. It's requested that you please keep your comments to about 3 minutes. Comments related to private student or employee matters shall be directed to the superintendent outside of this meeting.
Take this down, way too short for this.
Hi, I'm Katie Boehm. I live in Athens Township. I am the mother of a whole gaggle of kids, including my 8-year-old who is in the spirited class of 2034. I'm here tonight for the board and Dr. Stage's consideration in adding a 5th, 3rd grade teacher next year. Along with all that you may or may not have heard about the class of 2034, it is filled with geniuses, writers, athletes, artists, and very strong-willed young people. While I won't call these kids COVID babies, I will call them COVID preschoolers. While they were supposed to be learning how to interact with each other, how to share, how to sit and listen, how to make word sounds, letter sounds, they were forced to be 6 feet apart with their faces covered and not to play with their friends. It's sufficient to say that they are emotionally and educationally far behind where they should be. I think it's fair to say that majority of the class is below grade level at the start of the year. This year, they have had so many great experiences, and I don't want to take that away from this year. They have an amazing teacher, and the teachers are working so hard to get them back where they need to be. But my son has experienced basically daily disruptions in the class that have gone from expletive explosions to desk throwing, where at this point, it's second nature that they just have to leave the room while that is being taken care of. I had a conversation with Luke last night, and he was very nonchalantly telling me, I said, buddy, how many times have you had to leave the room because of an explosion in your classroom? And he's like, sits there and counts. He goes, 5 kids. And I said, no, buddy, how many times? And he's like, I don't know. I can't even count. So they have experienced so much beyond their years that it's beyond their comprehension. They don't understand what's going on. And while they have made tremendous gains this year, the acuity level of this class is extremely high. Having 23 plus kids to a class is detrimental to the work that has begun. I am a nurse by trade in a former lifetime. We use ratios every day to do patient to nurse assignments. And what was factored into that was the acuity level of how much care they really needed. As you're running the ratios for next year, please take into account the high acuity of this class.
Thank you.
Haley Campbell, South Main Street, Athensboro. Let me start off with telling you all how fortunate my husband and I feel the educational experiences our oldest son and daughter have received at Lynch Buston Elementary. They have been taught by some outstanding teachers. I'm here tonight to discuss my youngest son's experience at Lynch Buston. My son is one of the 87 second graders at Lynch. He is also one of the 19 students that went without a first grade teacher for nearly 6 months. 6 months. Not having a qualified teacher for months on end, my son went into school not knowing who his teacher would be that day. I made the mistake of sitting idle in that situation last year, as I understood the situation itself was out of all of our control, especially the school districts. Unlike my 2 other children, my 3rd child comes to school in survival mode until 3 p.m. The behaviors that my son sees on a daily basis are disruptive to everyone's learning. Behaviors such as foul language, refusing to do work or follow classroom rules, to physically throwing things, knocking over furniture, and assaulting others. To put it frankly, this class of students have struggled with properly being in a classroom. These behaviors have been spread out amongst 5 teachers when the student body was in kindergarten, 1st, and 2nd grade. And now we are asking this extremely challenging class to form only into 4 classes next year. This will not only increase the class size, but it will increase the behavior students to almost unmanageable numbers for a teacher. This is a matter that I strongly believe you cannot wait on. Majority of these students, our faculty, and our school staff deserve the consideration of another 3rd grade teacher. Thank you.
My name is Jacqueline Mackey. I'm from Athensboro, and I am with these ladies. Tonight, I have a daughter in 2nd grade at Lynch Elementary. She's a good student and enjoys learning. Over the past couple of years, she has become increasingly frustrated with her classmates and the constant distractions that come along with the behavior problems that occur on a daily basis. I have seen this firsthand as I have been a building-based substitute there for the last 2 years. I've worked with all of these kids from all of their 1st grade year through 2nd. The behavior problems go far beyond disrespect or arguing. I've seen and heard vulgar behavior and language frequently that makes other students and teachers extremely uncomfortable. There has been physical fighting between students, and the outrageous behavior problems have already created a need for teachers to be pulled from other responsibilities for extra coverage on recess duty. My child went from loving school in kindergarten to often dreading it because she said it just isn't fun like it used to be. She said the noise is too much sometimes, and they've had to evacuate their classroom on more than one occasion because a student was out of control. I love our school community and how we all come together to help. There are a lot of well-behaved kids, but they don't get the attention they deserve because the attention is on the misbehaving students. I believe this grade is in crisis mode, and the 2nd grade teachers have done so much this year to try and retrain the behaviors. They've made progress, and I'd like to see that continue. I think another year of a smaller class size will be necessary to do this. My daughter couldn't be here tonight, but she wanted to speak up. So it's her bedtime. So she wrote this today. I think we should have 5 3rd grade classrooms instead of 4. One reason is it will be too noisy in the class. The kids are loud and distracting. more kids will make it worse. My teachers spend so much time getting kids to listen. I don't like when my teacher gets upset. There are a lot of naughty kids in this grade. 5 more kids in my class will make it worse. And that is why I think we should have 5 third grade teachers instead of 4. Thank you.
My name is Lisa Bennett from Athens Township, and I'm here tonight as a concerned parent of a current second grader at Lynch Buston. I would like the board to strongly consider within their budget the addition of a 5th third grade teacher at Lynch Buston for the next school year. As a regular volunteer to this school and an officer of the PTG, I've heard and seen teachers of this class struggle to control behaviors, keep on task without interruption, and even removing well-behaved kids from their learning environment to address bad behaviors with the principal. These class sizes are currently at an average of 16 to 18 with 5 total second grade teachers. My son has not only witnessed the desk flipping and the profanity coming from other 8-year-old kids. He's unfortunately been, he's been the target of some of these behaviors. Increasing class sizes in 3rd grade will directly impact my son's education. Adding more teacher focus on addressing bad behaviors. Hold up here. Creating distractions and learning disruptions. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all.
If I could just have a moment, ladies that came up and had the courage to speak, thank you very much. I appreciate that. I'll be honest with you, this year, nothing has been finalized or planned, so I'm a little concerned where all that information is coming from. I know that it's anticipated that, we typically have bubbles of classes, and typically 3rd grade, we do increase the class sizes. Currently class sizes, I'm looking at some class sizes around 14 to 16, and I know that's really low. I know this is an extremely difficult class. You have to give us some time to maybe address the issue, while typically what we do is plan for that. I also would love to have a conversation with Mrs. Rhodes, Mr. Toscano. There's a lot of other supports we do as well, just outside of just adding a teacher. We understand what's going on in this classroom and this grade level. It's extremely challenging. It's becoming notorious because it is talked about often. I do appreciate and respect everything you shared with us. If you could give us some time to maybe look into it, find alternatives, give us an opportunity to really take a deep dive into that. I don't want to simply say no to you guys, and I don't want to simply say yes to you guys. The picture is bigger than just adding a teacher, I think, in my opinion. Small class sizes are great and wonderful, and if we can do it, we will. But I think we might miss the root cause of the issue. So it might be adding a teacher or there's a lot of things that we have to really drill down to. I really like to have some time to talk about that and look into that. And August is when the next school year starts. So we have some time to figure it out. But I thank you for that.
Okay, I'm sorry. Is this the first time we're hearing about violence in the classroom?
No, we've dealt with this all year.
Okay, so it's April. We started school in August. Has any other board member heard anything from anyone? I encourage the public, on our website, there's a place you can go. If you want the board to know or you're concerned, please send the email. That goes to all the board members. I'm sorry, but this is something that should have been brought up. I feel for these mothers. And if we started school in August, and we're just hearing about it now in April. that there's been issues all year, or is it just now with springtime that they're
No,
outside?
we've been addressing the issues all year. We've been working with it. We are not ignoring this issue. I want to make that very clear. We are not ignoring this issue. We address it every single day.
But there is a place on the website. If the public wants the board to know so that we all get the same information at the same time, submit information to that website. There's a where you can type a letter out to us. And by law, they have to send it to us. But I knew nothing about it. And I understand that they're handling it, but if it gets to the point where we're almost done with school. I don't know. I'll shut up.
All right, and thank you again for the comments. Appreciate you speaking up. Do we have any further visitor comments this evening? Okay, so the next section of the agenda are several board communication items. Again, nothing here for a vote. We have some personnel transfers, senior trip update, the class of 2024 graduation memo, Sunday facility use request, field trip requests, our typical enrollment numbers, both across the district and by the building. And then just an update future board meetings, just in summary. In May, we're going to be reducing down to one meeting, and that will be on May 7th. And in June, which we typically do one meeting, but we'll be shifting that one meeting from the 18th to the 11th in June.
Do we need to vote on that, Mr. Owen?
I don't believe so.
I think we should, Mr. Owen.
Do we need to
because
vote?
We're setting the budget.
Yeah.
Those both.
Okay, so do we need to move that to a separate part of the agenda, Mr. Barrett? Or do we just vote on it within this section? Okay. Okay, so then do we have a motion and a second then to bring section 8 or 16, letter H up for a vote?
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
That's Chris. Yep. Okay, any questions or comments then on letter H, section 16? Okay, we can take a vote then, please, Christine.
Mr. Owen,
Yes.
Mr. Rude,
Yes.
Mrs. Smart,
Yes.
Mr. Charles
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper,
Yes.
Mr. Frisbee.
Yes.
Mr. Jones
Yes.
and Mrs. Minnick.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And I believe those and those updated meetings have already been communicated, I believe, via the appropriate sources. We have no board discussion items
To bring something up.
at this time, but yes, go ahead, Captain Joe.
As Mr. Stage said earlier, Dr. Stage said earlier, the performance this past weekend with the ASAG was amazing. The students were just phenomenal. However, the sound system basically was horrendous. And I don't think it's fair to the students and the staff and the personnel to put hard work into that. So I'm requesting the board to, I don't know, put out RFPs, put out something to address the microphone situation so that the performances can be heard without having all the static and cutouts. I don't know if anyone else saw the performances, but all three performances had issues with the sound. And I guess it's from their microphone, so we need to have that addressed and
Honestly, I just blown away by what we saw, but the sound was, it's not stellar and like that impacts the kids and their whole families.
so if the kids are doing the sound, and I think that's great, if they're doing their own sound, if they need assistance or if whoever's helping them needs assistance with the sound system, then we need to get people here that can show them or be with them. I think it's great that you're taking an interest in wanting to do their own sound, but have someone here that can either assist them or show them.
I think there were adult volunteers that was working on the sound. And I don't know if they got all of the training they needed to use it correctly. And I think we can offer that.
you.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Minnick. Do we have any other board discussion items? Okay, future meeting, as I mentioned, next meeting is May 7th. And we do have a need for an executive session for personnel items after this meeting. So then do we have a motion and a second to adjourn?
Second.
Thank you.